This is Serafina and the Twisted Staff, Chapter 9. A massive beast hurled itself at the boards of the stall. The flexing wood struck Serafina in the head. The surprise of it sent her tripping backward in fear. The beast kicked the stall boards and slammed them in the shoulders, snorting and thrashing. The boards bent and cracked underneath the pressure of the pounding animal. When she heard the stable boss and the gang of stable men running towards the disturbance she caused, she scrambled into an empty stall, ducked down, and hid in a shadow. She gasped for breath, trying to figure out what she just saw. A massive dark shape, black eyes, flaring nostrils, and pounding hooves. A storm of questions flooded her mind as Mr. Rinaldi and his men came charging down the aisle. The beast continued its terrible pounding and thrashing. The stable's boss shouted instructions to his men to reinforce the boards. Serafina quickly climbed out of the back of the stall and darted from the stable before they caught sight of her. Those were stallions. There was no question now. Whoever he was, the second occupant of the carriage was here. She scurried along the stone foundation at the rear of the house, pushing her body through the air shaft, crawling through the passage, pushing aside the wire mesh, and entered the basement. Her presence at the estate had been known to the Vanderbilts for a few weeks before, so she could, theologically, use the doors like normal people, but she seldom did. She went to the basement corridors through a door and then down another passageway. As she stepped into the workshop, her pa turned towards her. "Good morning," she began to say in a pleased, casual fashion, but when he got a good look at her bedazzled state, he lurched back in surprise. Law, what happened to you, child?" His hands guided her gently to a stool for her to sit. "Ah, Sarah," he said, as he looked at her wounds, "I said you could go out into the forest at night to spend time with your mother, but you're breaking my heart coming home looking like this. What have you been doing out there in those woods?" Her pa had found her in the forest the night she was born, so she reckoned he must have been having an inkling of what she was, but he didn't like the dark talk of demons and shifters and things that go bump in the night. It was as if he thought that as long as they didn't talk about those things, they would not be real or come into their lives. She had told herself many times that she wouldn't bother her pa with the details of what happened at night when she went out, and normally she kept that promise. But for the moment her pa asked, it was all just started gushing out of her before she could stop it. "It was a terrible run-in with a pack of dogs, Pa," she said, choked up. "It's all right, Sarah. You're safe here," her pa said as he took her into his thick arms and huge chest and held her. "But what dogs are you talking about? It wasn't the young master's dog, was it?" "No, Pa. Gideon would never hurt me. There was a strange man in the forest with a pack of wolfhounds. He seized them on me something fierce." "But where did they come from?" her pa asked. "Was he a bear hunter?" She shook her head. "I don't know. After he got out of the carriage, he sent the carriage on towards Biltmore. I think I saw the horses in the stable, and I saw a strange man with Mr. Vanderbilt this morning. Did anyone unusual arrive at the house last night?" "The servants have been jabbering on about all the folks coming for Christmas time, but I doubt the man you saw was one of the Vanderbilt's guests. I'll wager it was one of those poachers from Mill's Gap that was ran off from the estate 2 years ago." Serafina could hear the anger seething from her pa's voice. He was riled up that someone had done his little girl harm. He kept talking as he examined the crusted blood on her head. I'll speak with Superintendent McName first thing. We'll take a party out there to confront this fella, whoever he is. But first off, let's get you patched up. Then you rest a spell. Your lesson can't wait." "My lesson?" she asked, confused. "For them table manners of yours. Not again, Pa, please. I've got to figure out who's come to the Biltmore. I told you, you're fixin' to hammer that nail till it's sunk in deep." "Sunk in your head, you mean?" "Yeah, in your head. Where else do you learn things? Now that you and the youngest master are getting on, you need to behave proper." "I know how to behave just fine, Pa. You're about as civilized as a weasel, girl. I should have been schooling you more about this folks upstairs and how they get about things, 'cause it ain't like us. Brandon is my friend, Pa. He likes me just fine the way that I am, if that's what you're poking at," she said, although, as she heard herself defending Brandon's opinion of her, it felt suspiciously like she was lying not just to her pa, but to herself. Truth was, she didn't know if she was or wasn't Brandon's friend anymore, and she was becoming increasingly less certain of it every day. "It's not directly the young master I'm concerned about," her pa continued as he got clean, wet cloths and started looking after her wounds. "It's the master and mistress, and especially their guests coming cities away. You can't sit at their table if you don't know the difference between a napkin and a tablecloth." "Why would I need to know the difference between? The butler told me that Mr. Vanderbilt was going to be looking for you upstairs later today, and everyone in the kitchen was fixing for a big supper tonight." "A supper? What kind of supper? Is it the stranger going to be there? Is it what this was all about? And what about Brandon? Is he going to be there too?" "That's a bushel more questions than I got answers for," her pa said. "I don't know anything about it, truth be told, but other than the younger master, I can't figure any other reasons why the Vanderbilts would be a-looking for you. I just know there's a big shining tonight, and the master sent word, and it shouldn't sound so much like the invitation as an instruction, if you get my meaning." "Did they say it was supper or a shining, Pa?" Serafina said, getting confused, and realized, as she said, that it was the Vanderbilts didn't have events by either one of those names. Serafina knew that she had to go to the event her pa was telling about. For one thing, it'd be the worst way to see all the new people who had arrived at the house. But the obstacles immediately sprung into her mind. "How can I go up there, Pa?" she said with an alarm, looking at a bite mark and scratches all over her arms and her legs. "They don't hurt too badly, but they are looking somewhat awful." "We'll clean the mud off you and get the sticks and blood out of your hair, and you'll be fine. The dress will cover them, their scratches." "My dress had more holes in it than me," she protested as she examined the blood-stains, tattered pieces of dress that Mrs. V had given her. "She couldn't show up in that." "Them toothly mongrels sure did a number on you," he said, as he examined the tear in my lower ear. "Didn't that hurt?" "Naw, not no one," he said, her mind on other things. "Where's the old work shirts of yours that I used to wear?" "I threw that thing out as soon as I saw that Mrs. Vanderbilt gave you something nice to wear." "Aw, Pa, now, I ain't got nothing at all. Don't fuss. I'll make you something out of what we got up in here." Serafina shook her head in dismay. "What we got around here is nothing but mostly sackcloth and sandpaper. Look, her pa said, taking her by the shoulder and looking into her eyes. You're alive, ain't you? She toughened up. Bless the Lord and get on with things. In your entire life, has the master of this house ever demanded your presence upstairs? No, has he not? So, yes, ma'am, if the master wants you there, you're going to be there, with bells on. Bells? As she asked in horror. Why do I have to wear bells? How could she sneak and hide if she was wearing noisy bells around her neck? Or did they go on her feet? It's just an expression, girl, her pa said, shaking his head. Then, after a moment, he muttered to himself, At least I think that it is.